Samson. When you hear that name, you probably think of a super strong guy, someone who could fight a lion and win, or knock down a building with just one push. He was a Nazirite, chosen by God and given super strength. But Samson also made bad choices and was easily tricked. Back then, the Israelites, God's people, were ruled by the Philistines. This is where Samson's story begins, a story about a hero who tried to save his people. Samson's story, with all its ups and downs, shows us that everyone makes good and bad choices. The Philistines were strong and had deadly weapons, advanced for their time, making them formidable opponents. They came from far away and took over the Israelites' land, establishing their dominance. They were always causing trouble, and the Israelites felt trapped, unable to escape their harsh reality. It wasn't just about who was in charge, it was about their different ways of life and who they worshipped. The cultural clash was intense. The Philistines had their own gods, and that made it hard for the Israelites to believe in their God, Yahweh. The religious tension was palpable. Samson, from the day he was born, was part of this fight, like a chess piece in a big game. A judge back then wasn't like a judge in court today. They were more like warriors chosen by God to save the Israelites from their enemies. Samson was definitely not your typical hero. He was more like a powerful storm, super strong and often doing things without thinking. He was mad at the Philistines, so he caught 300 foxes, tied torches to their tails, and let them loose in the Philistines' fields, burning everything. Samson's crazy plans scared the Philistines and made his people feel a little bit better. Section 4. The Nazirite Promise, a big deal and Samson's downfall. From the moment he was born, Samson had a big job: to keep the Nazirite promise. This promise was not just any ordinary vow, it was a sacred pact with God. His parents made this promise to God for him, making him special and holy. They dedicated his life to a higher purpose, hoping he would lead and protect his people. The promise had important rules: no haircuts, no drinking alcohol, and no touching dead things. These rules were meant to keep him pure and focused on his mission. Samson's long hair was a sign of this promise, and was the source of his super strength. But promises can be hard to keep, especially for someone like Samson, who was strong but made bad choices. His strength was unmatched, but his willpower was often weak. He liked Philistine women, went to their parties, and broke the rules. His attraction to the Philistine lifestyle led him astray, making him vulnerable. And then there's Delilah, the tricky Philistine woman who pretended to love him and cut off his hair, taking away his strength. Her betrayal was the final blow, leading to his ultimate downfall. Section 5. Samson's story, strength, tricks, and second chances. This is a tale that has been told for generations, a story that resonates with themes of power, deception, and ultimately, redemption. Samson's story doesn't have a happy ending at first. He was a man of immense strength, but his life took a dark turn. The Philistines blinded him, cut his hair, and put him in jail. His once mighty power was stripped away, leaving him vulnerable and broken. He seemed weak and helpless. The man who once struck fear into his enemies was now a shadow of his former self, confined to a dark cell. But even when things were really bad, he still believed. In his darkest moments, he held on to a glimmer of hope, a small spark of faith. He prayed to God not to escape, but to be strong one last time, to do one last thing against his enemies. His prayer was a plea for redemption, a final act of defiance against those who had wronged him. What happened next? Samson stood between the big pillars in the Philistine temple. His enemies thought he was defeated, but they were wrong. His enemies were laughing at him, not knowing that God had given him his strength back. They mocked him, unaware of the power that was about to be unleashed. He roared and pushed the pillars. The temple fell down, and Samson and his enemies were buried in the rubble. In his final act, he brought down the house, literally and figuratively. Even though this story is very old, it still teaches us something important. Real strength isn't just about muscles. It's about turning back to God, even when we've made mistakes. It's a reminder that redemption is always within reach, no matter how far we've fallen. Thank you for watching. There is a PayPal link if you want to support my work. May the Creator bless you always.